Father Kautzky, good morning. It's good to hear your voice and connect with you. We know you make your way back to Iowa at times, but Colorado Springs and all that's involved there. So we love hearing a little bit about your ministry to the cadets there and all that you're doing there. Is it a pretty scripted and regimented life that you take on? I mean, we think about the military in general, but does this kind of up the ante now being at an Air Force Academy?
That's right. Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, Kelly. Great to be with you. And, I like to think it's a little bit like a continuation of high school because we have in high school the bell system that sends people to the next classes, and it's very regimented, the school day. And here we have something similar, only it's trumpet blasts, between the classes. So we are very much on an academic schedule.
Mm-hmm. And intense. Am I right to think that a lot are studying like aeronautical engineering or the disciplines, hard sciences and math and things like that?
That's right, Bishop. We have a lot of our cadets who are really studying they want to be pilots. So more than half, I think 60% will leave the academy and go on to be pilots, and a lot of engineering, a lot of STEM going on. But we also have philosophy majors. We have music majors, and so we have a lot of different, kind of the typical majors you'd find at a university.
Intriguing. I did not know that you had the humanities going on. Yeah.
Very heavily in the engineering program, and they've got these wind tunnels on campus where they can test, how planes hold up under, extreme conditions, and a lot of nifty classroom activities like that going on. So they really enjoy their courses.
Do they draw you into it so you get to have the run of the campus and maybe kind of sit in on some of these things? Or you have a day job, so you don't have time.
That's right. So I'm kind of doing two full-time jobs. I've got, of course, the Catholic program, and that's very active. That's the most active faith group on campus, actually. And so we have a lot of participation with that. About a quarter of the 4,000 cadets are Catholic, and so that certainly is a full job right there, and helping provide for their needs, with daily confessions, and we have daily mass on campus, Eucharistic adoration, retreats. We've got actually a discernment retreat coming up that I'll be taking some cadets to. That's put on by the Archdiocese for the military services. So we also have cadets discerning the religious life in the midst of their studies here, and feeling like God may be calling them to serve as priests or religious, which is great. We don't always think of that, but military is a huge source of vocations to the priesthood and religious life. So we're trying to support that, and we also have a lot of cadets that are discerning becoming Catholic. So we have a number of cadets that come to RCIA every Sunday, and so we're able to answer their questions and visit with them, and so those are great conversations. And it's a very intelligent group, so they ask very pointed questions and very thoughtful discussions going on there.
Well, they're fortunate. God has sent you to them then, because you're that's all in your wheelhouse, and you're obviously very savvy, and you're kind of known as one who promoted a culture of vocations, even your time at Dowling Catholic High School as well. And I know Father Nick Stark, among others, kind of looks to you as helping to inspire him to consider that also. So the sacramental ministry, the discernment ministry, and how encouraging that someone consider this. In my work, kind of in formation, we sometimes considered engineering as pre-theology because engineers are realists like farmers, and that the world is not totally on our terms, and so you're beholden to something greater than yourself, but also looking for those things that kind of will have enduring value as well. So maybe that's And
Bishop, you're so right. I think with in the case of the cadets, who are many of them engineers, they're serving in the military, and they're gonna, in a few years, they'll be commissioned as second lieutenants. They'll all come out as lieutenants and go out into the big Air Force, as we say, and be officers, and some will be generals. But they're already used to this culture of gift of self and being generous with our life and making sacrifices. And so I think it's kind of an easy, I guess, transition, right, to encourage vocations, to lay our life down for the Lord, because there's something in them already that understands that concept.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you were at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport, Louisiana before. Is that correct? Before you were transferred?
That's correct. I was there during most of COVID. Really, COVID was starting right when I got there, and so I was there for 2.5 years, and was a group chaplain there. So I had some different workplaces for the cops and firefighters, and then, of course, the main job was being the Catholic priest. And so I was there for 2.5 years in Louisiana, and I'm kind of starting to miss the warm weather because it's getting cold here in Colorado.
No sympathy. I don't know if you're a skier or not. Or if you did snowshoeing growing up in Perry or not. Time to get those out of you.
I've got my ski pass for the season, so I've decided I'm going to get into it. I've only skied in Minnesota, which is not the same as Colorado.
Right.
No. We don't want you coming back in a body bag, please. So use good judgment, please. You don't have to live on the edge, all right? I certainly support your physical pursuits, but so versus a big Air Force base and the cadets, so you'd had more marriage and family ministry on the base, whereas the academy would tend to be more single people given their state in life at that time.
It's definitely different here in that it's very much a campus ministry feel. It feels a lot like probably a Newman Center would be. We have. I should mention I have 4 focus missionaries that are assigned to the academy. I was just going to ask
that. You're kind of in the backyard of the birthplace of focus, right? I mean,
that's right, up in Denver, and that's been, I think, one of my favorite things about being here has been working with our focus missionaries, and they run Bible studies, over with the athletes and different students, all over the place, and so they're, to me, in ministry, really an extension of my ministry, but also they are able to connect on a peer level with the college age students they're connecting with, and so they're so helpful with just strengthening the Catholic program, getting people involved through, I think, just relationship and friendship and encouragement.
Well, that's beautiful, and as one who collaborated with focus missionaries in college ministry, I mean, it really depends on the chemistry that you have with those missionaries. And, there's some continuity, but they also tend to change over from year to year as well. And so it sounds like you've got a great group that you're working with. Is it 2 men, 2 women? Do some of them focus on the athletes or not? The varsity Catholic branch of focus or not?
We've got 2 men and 2 women. One of them is working pretty heavily with the athletes and want to make sure that they're also plugged into what they're interested in. So we have one who's very interested in singing and music, and so she's very involved with our Catholic choir. And then we have one that's really she's the team leader, and so she's doing a lot of communicating with Focus, and then also making sure the team is doing their best job, doing outstanding, which they are. And then we have one who's really into gaming and kind of more of the arts and things. And so it's just, it's a very diverse team. And, we have one from Minnesota, one from Kansas, one from California, and one from Texas. And so they're just geographically even just kind of all over the place. And they were in Texas, and I was in Texas as well for the Army Air Force game this past weekend. So we just got back last night, and Air Force won.
Just note that for the record. Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
sorry, my sister's military.
So I'm sorry to all of our Army, listeners.
I don't detect a whole lot of sincerity in that apology.
I did tease him in the email, "Go Army," but.
Yeah, and that's a curious thing too, right? Because it's kind of like D1 athletics, but really not able to have the same claim over them because their mission, their job is something else to be about. Whereas D1 athletes, they own them really. Yes, they're getting degrees and things, but it's a kind of a
right. We know where they're going to go after graduation. Probably not be professional players, but they're going to be officers, and so it is an interesting dynamic that they're doing military training, which is very demanding, living in the dorms, and then full-time student athletes as well. So those athletes are especially busy, and I don't know how they do it because it's a lot to balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As you've been describing, and your focus team, I'm getting a picture of this and describing kind of like a Newman Center ministry. Now, are you the sole Catholic priest, and are you collaborating with other ecumenical chaplains on campus? And I sometimes think of the Catholics as the minority in the larger armed services, but how does that flow for you?
So we have the chapel team here. We actually have, because of where we're at, we have a faith group chaplain for each of the major faith groups. So I work closely with Jewish rabbi, an imam. We've got an Orthodox priest who I traveled with actually to Texas. He's the athletic department chaplain, as well as the Orthodox priest, and a number of Protestant denominations as well. So we've got a big mix of faith backgrounds. So we come together once a week for a big meeting, all the chaplains, and have our offices there. My office is actually located in the dorms, so it's embedded ministry. They converted a dorm room to an office. So the group chaplains, we all have offices right there where our people are, and kind of right down the hall from the commanders inside the dorm. So we're pretty accessible during the day.
Yeah.
Someone needs to come see us, our doors open, and we're able to.
And that allows a little bit of discretion, maybe, where someone wants to confide in you, have a private conversation. It's not like they're showing up this big center where like, oh, so and so's going to see the chaplain. What's going on there, right?
And they're. I think we're always working on removing that stigma. I think cadets are very good about just reaching out for help. So there are chaplains. There's mental health. There's a Peak Performance Center, which is also counseling. There's so many resources that they can use to talk to someone, and not only the cadets, but the permanent party, the officers, and the enlisted that work, with the cadets. They have access to all these things too. So we're not just there for the cadets. We're also there for the leadership, and we have the 100% confidentiality. The chaplains do, and we understand that well, as Catholics with the seal of confession. But, if you go talk to any chaplain, it can't go anywhere. They can't repeat anything. So a lot of people will come see us and just visit about things and no, it won't go anywhere.
Oh, beautiful. So it sounds like a very holistic culture, really trying to, form and serve the whole person and all that you're about. So, I mean, that's a great blessing and luxury that these young people, I hope they appreciate that these services are available. And like you say, kind of destigmatizing things that they can take advantage of in this way.
Bishop, you had asked about working with other priests, and we had over the summer, of course, is the basic training for the incoming freshmen. So they graduate high school, and then they come here, and they're getting yelled at, and they're running around and marching around, and just a lot of confusion, going on, and just trying to get adjusted to the military culture. So they're going through basic training. And so because of the needs of the Catholics, we actually had 3 reservist priests come in. And so we had a total of 5 priests here this summer just to help with all the confessions, with all the masses going on. And we had, in the first 24 hours that the incoming class showed up for basic training, they were given a break from basic training and were able to come to Mass if they wanted to. And so that was I think that's my favorite Mass I've had here, because they didn't know that they were going to have that option. They were told at the last minute. And so they, in the midst of all this stress, got to meet a Catholic priest, and we were not yelling at them. We were inviting them to mass.
No hellfire and brimstone homily or anything.
No, we try to be
an easy way to gravitate to you.
That's kind of the one place they're not getting yelled at, at that point. So, so we had a few hundred came, and we marched. The priests marched them over to the place where we were having mass, and we also went out in the woods, during that part of the training when they're out in the woods doing assault course, as they call it.
Fabulous. Hey, Father Zach, love to keep this conversation going, but we're going to have to take a quick break here.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to a special Veterans Day edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. We are back with Father Zach Kautzky, who serves the U.S. Air Force Academy as a cadet chaplain.
So thank you for remaining with us, Father Zach. And just, we talk about making it personal here, not to indulge myself too much, but you talk about how the experience of the Eucharist for those young cadets in basic training, and really an act of thanksgiving that we could do this and, to really find refreshment in that way. But how also the potential that some will be opened up to a faith that is not their own at this time. And I certainly, thinking about my own dad, he was a navigator, and it was the men he met in the military who really kind of spoke to him and kind of opened his heart in this in a way such that, when he left, he ultimately converted to Catholicism as well. But I think we have another connection that, we haven't talked too much about, but your uncle and my uncle are both priests, and actually I believe we're classmates at Loras College and at Mount St. Bernard Seminary. So your uncle how great an influence was he for you in the vocational calling?
That's right, and there's some giants, I think, of priests that came out of that time period.
Loras 58, Mount St. Bernard 1962. Right, yeah.
That's right,
yeah.
And I think for me, growing up on the farm, my uncle was, he was a fixture in our life. He was assigned several times near our farm, so he actually kept cattle at our house for a time. Sometimes they would get loose. There was this whole thing.
Kelly can relate to that.
Yes, I can relate to that. Ours were hogs, but yes, I can relate.
But he baptized me. He married my parents. Just sacramentally, a huge part of our life. But also, it's fun just having a priest in the family. We would go to parish events. He was beloved by his people, and he loved them. And he was, I think, just a great, great priest. You're a priest forever. He passed away in the year 2000, but certainly had a big impact on me. And, he had conversations with me, not pushing me to be a priest, but certainly took the time to get to know me as his nephew and knew that I was interested. And so he, mentored me, certainly, as a kid. And also, I think...
he didn't teach you to play golf, right, or anything like that, right? That was...
He didn't play golf.
Okay.
No. But he at his funeral, I was really struck by all the priests there singing the Salve Regina, kind of that tradition at priest funeral, right at the end, all the priests, all those voices just powerfully singing. And that really always stuck out with me at his funeral, the impact one priest has, but also this idea of that you are part of a brotherhood of priests, and even if you're geographically separated, that you have this fraternity, that we need and we rely on, and but we also want to be good brother priests to other people, to other priests.
Amen. And, my uncle, Monsignor Ralph Symington, that was some of the things. You saw them together and how there was joy, there was quick-witted humor and things, but just that fraternity. And so hopefully, and that's something you tried to kind of bring into the culture at Dowling Catholic High School, I think, bringing young men together, but just the priests that were there. But, those who were ordained 62, we think of Father Acree, Father Frank Palmer, Monsignor Stessman, others as well. So the impact that had in the Des Moines Diocese. Just
giants of the Diocese of Des Moines.
Amen.
I have a black and white photo of that class, 1962. The photo was taken of those seminarians on the steps of Mount St. Bernard's, and it's many recognizable priests from our diocese. Just all the kind of all the big names, all the priests that have inspired so many people over the years.
Well, and, as time winds down here, unfortunately, we could easily chat with you longer, but on Veterans Day, what a grace and that kind of esprit de corps. And Father Kautzky, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some young men who are saying, this priest who mentored me is one that kind of opened my heart to something. And so, you're not trying to exalt yourself, but, the new generation of giants coming forth. So thank you for all that you're doing to minister to the larger church.
Thank you, Bishop, and happy Veterans Day, and thanks for your father's service as well.